Alors, bonjour à tous et à toutes et bienvenue à notre séance extraordinaire du conseil d'arrondissement Côte-de-Neige-NDG. Je suis Sue Montgomery et je suis la mairesse de Côte-de-Neige-NDG. J'aimerais reconnaître que nous sommes en territoire autochtone, laquelle n'a été jamais cédée. Alors, j'aimerais présenter mes collègues, M. Lionel Perez de Darlington.
Bonjour tout le monde. Hello everyone.
Monsieur Peter McQueen d'NDG.
Bonjour tout le monde. Thanks for being with us today.
Monsieur Christian Arsenault de Loyola.
Bonjour tout le monde. Good afternoon, everyone.
Madame Propiano de Côte-de-Neige.
Bonjour. Hello, everybody. Thanks to be with us.
Et Monsieur Marvin Rotran de Snowden.
Bonjour tout le monde. Welcome everybody to the special session of the council.
Et j'aimerais également présenter notre directeur d'arrondissement, Monsieur Plante, et je vous prie de présenter vos collègues.
Oui, alors bonjour Madame la mairesse, Madame la conseillère, Messieurs les conseillers. Avec moi aujourd'hui, Madame Geneviève Reeves, secrétaire d'arrondissement.
Bonjour.
Et Madame Julie Faraldou-Boulet, secrétaire recherchiste. Voilà.
Bonjour.
Merci. Alors, on va maintenant adopter l'ordre du jour 10.02.
Je le propose.
Je l'appuie.
10.03, période de commentaires. J'ai pas de commentaires. Est-ce qu'il y a...
Ah oui. Oui,
le premier, c'est Rotran. Avez-vous des commentaires?
Ah oui, j'ai quelques remarques. Si vous n'avez pas des remarques, d'habitude, vous allez première.
Oui, c'est ça. Je n'ai pas de commentaires.
Merci, Madame Montgomery. Oui, j'ai quelques remarques. Premièrement, j'aimerais donner tout mon appui à Monsieur Peter Gillett, un jeune homme qui est victime d'un crime proche de l'ancien poste de police 11. Le poste de quartier est fermé le 28 septembre, il y a quelques jours plus tard. Apparemment, M. Gillett, qui marche dans la rue, est attaqué par 4 personnes, aspergé avec aérosol poivré, son porte-monnaie, son téléphone cellulaire est volé. Un peu confus par cette violence contre lui, promené vers la station de police pour faire un rapport d'urgence pour trouver que la poste est fermée. Effectivement, sans une façon d'avertir personne, il est vraiment perdu pour un certain temps. Le dépanneur proche était fermé. Il a dû marcher 4-5 coins, trouver un endroit qui est ouvert. Il a dit que c'était noir. Il avait peur, c'est dangereux et ça démontre, à mon avis, la nécessité d'avoir un poste de police dans le quartier. J'invite l'administration municipale, dans le plus court délai, de mettre une voiture police à côté de la station actuelle. J'étais là aujourd'hui. En demi-heure, 2 citoyens se promènent vers la station de police sans de savoir c'est fermé. Une voiture de police va augmenter le sens de sécurité et j'invite l'administration dans les 2 semaines prochaines de nous dire s'il va accéder à ma requête pour un sous-poste de police à Notre-Dame-de-Grâce ou non. Le conseil municipal vote une motion qui dit qu'il peut avoir 4 mois après la fermeture pour faire une décision. Ce crime démontre la nécessité d'avoir une présence physique de police dans le quartier et un endroit que les gens peuvent facilement accéder. J'invite l'administration d'admettre une erreur et d'agir rapidement dans le sens des 3000 noms récoltés sur la pétition qui veut garder un poste de police à NDG. 3 other things quickly. The Government of Canada has just announced the 2020 Parents and Grandparents Reunification Program. Applications are open October 13th to November the 3rd. The program has been announced by Marco Mendocino, the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship. In our borough, particularly in the Côte-de-Neige part, there are a great number of persons who are new Canadians, persons who are permanent residents who come from elsewhere. Family reunification is a big issue. I invite you to look at the Government of Canada website or to contact your member of parliament. Again, as I said last meeting, the STM has rescheduled the meetings on the proposed Northwest Attachment Center, which will be a $500 million construction of a parking and maintenance facility under the Carey Boulevard, adjacent the Snowden Metro. Today is the end of a of a redistribution of pamphlets. 18,000 homes in Snowden and Summit NDG will receive a notification. The hearings have been moved to November 2nd, November 10th, and November 24th. I invite everybody to look at the STM site for the information. This is a huge project, and we want to make sure it's done with the least inconvenience possible. Finally, j'invite mes collègues de m'appuyer. J'ai l'intention de proposer une augmentation du budget pour la réfection des rues et trottoirs chez nous. Les chaussées sur beaucoup des rues dans les 5 districts sont abîmées. Nous avons marge de manœuvre dans le surplus de l'arrondissement. J'invite les travaux publics de dresser une liste des rues le pire dans le secteur, dans la juridiction de l'arrondissement. Et je vais inviter les élus de m'appuyer dans une démarche de trouver le montant qu'on peut allouer de surplus. Merci, Madame Montgomery. Bonne journée à tout le monde.
Merci. Madame Popiano, avez-vous des commentaires?
Non, Madame la mairesse, merci.
OK. Monsieur McQueen?
Non, Madame la mairesse, merci.
Monsieur Perez?
Non, merci, Madame la mairesse. J'attendrai jusqu'à le point de l'ordre du jour. Merci.
OK. Monsieur Osno?
Et également pour moi. Merci.
D'accord. Donc, sans commentaire, on va passer maintenant à 10.04, période de questions et de demandes du public. Et aujourd'hui, nous avons 3 questions du public. La première vient de Madame Elizabeth Ford. Montreal is facing an urgent homelessness crisis. The situation in Cabot Square has worsened to the point that private citizens have been forced to organize to feed its residents for the past 6 weekends, since the City of Montreal has instructed the Red Cross to cease activities in the square. Now, private citizens are organizing to supply sleeping bags and blankets to the homeless who call Cabot Square their home. The Mayor of Montreal has recently stated she is looking into finding space for these homeless citizens in vacant hotels, but this work should have been done months ago. At the same time, a tent city on Notre-Dame Street Est is going to be taken down on the mayor's orders. My question is, as members of Projet Montréal, have Christian Arsenault, Magda Popiano, and Peter McQueen been raising this crucial issue in their party's caucus meetings? And if so, what are they asking the mayor?
Yes, Ms. Mayor, I will try to answer.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Mayor, and I thank you very much, Ms. Ford. It's important. It's a pleasure. Thank you for your question. It's a pleasure to answer you. And I want to assure you that we are a very responsible administration, and Mayor Plante has demonstrated time and time again that we don't want to leave anyone behind. Homelessness represents an extremely complex subject with several issues related to health, social isolation, marginalization, and discrimination also, and much more. And according to statistics, approximately 20% of campers, you refer to campers on Notre-Dame Street, are in their first episode of homelessness. Everyone has their story and their particular problems, but these stories arise from the conjunction of 2 phenomena. The housing crisis is hitting Montreal, and of course, the pandemic. The first is linked to the real estate bubble, which has created the price of rents to explode. They have increased by 40% in the last 5 years. And right now, the average rent price is $1,200 per month. So this is why we have worked very hard to put in place several measures as creating new social housing, stopping renovation, and the use of small apartments for Airbnb. And I hope you are aware, we did it also in our borough. To put in place a regulation requiring real estate developers to build 20% of social housing in new projects. And we put a target of 950 housing units for people experiencing homelessness. This target was established in 2018 as part of a $7.8 million plan. And we have delivered more than 600 housing units. So we are very aware that even when reaching 100%, the needs will continue to increase, especially in pandemic situation. So we are working very hard, like was done actually last spring during the first wave of pandemic, to find possibilities to house the homeless in unoccupied buildings. And as every year, a winter measures plan is put in place by municipal administration in collaboration with the Health and Social Services Network to offer heat stops, transport shuttles, and especially new sites, emergency accommodation for winter, including hotels. And I want to assure you, we are working very hard in the field with the CUSS organization and community organization to support and to accompany homeless people. So thank you another time for your question. It's really a very big problem and a hard problem.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Merci. Est-ce que M. Arsenault ou M. McQueen des commentaires? Parce que je pense que la question est directée à vous trois. OK. On va passer...
I answer for three of us.
OK, d'accord. OK, parfait. Merci. On passe maintenant à question 2. Monsieur Tanmin Fan, Maître Reeves, pouvez-vous...
Oui. Première question, comment avancent les travaux des parcs dans le secteur du Triangle par rapport à l'échéancier planifié? A-t-on trouvé une autre option pour installer les vitres au chalet du nouveau parc? J'aimerais avoir une estimation des dates de complétion pour chacun des 3 parcs espaces publics, s'il vous plaît. Deuxième question. Avec différents rapports recommandant d'améliorer le secteur en termes de TOD avec le transport collectif et actif, allez-vous dans un avenir proche permettre aux piétons de traverser la rue Jean-Talon ouest entre Mountain Sides et Victoria? C'est un long bloc de 400 mètres sans possibilité de traverser plus directement et de manière sécuritaire entre le milieu résidentiel et le milieu commercial de l'autre côté. Merci.
Merci. Merci, M. Fan. Merci pour la question, les questions. Je suis très hâte. J'ai hâte d'inaugurer le nouveau parc dans le Triangle. Mais malheureusement, on a eu des problèmes avec les fournisseurs et nous sommes très déçus avec eux. Alors, nous avons attendu très longtemps pour les pièces manquantes, mais nous venons de les recevoir. Alors, les travaux devraient se terminer au début du mois de décembre. Et encore une fois, je suis désolée pour le délai, mais j'espère que tout va bien au mois de décembre. Concernant votre deuxième question, c'est une bonne question. On doit parler avec nos experts en trafic et parce que il faut s'assurer que les gens puissent traverser la rue tout en sécurité parce que, comme vous savez, Jean-Talon est une rue très achalandée. Alors, on va regarder qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour les piétons. Monsieur Autran, avez-vous quelque chose à ajouter?
Merci, Madame Montgomery. Bonjour, Monsieur Pham. Juste pour ajouter quelques éléments de réponse. Pour le grand parc, le parc Sadie-Bronfman, la ville a livré la majorité de ce parc déjà en juillet. Ce qui reste à faire est essentiellement le chalet. Et comme Madame Montgomery indique, il y a des problèmes avec un fournisseur qui était presque le seul unique fournisseur pour les vitres et quelques autres composants de le chalet. Nous avons les reçus et la date est fin novembre, commencement de décembre. Mais vous avez demandé pour les autres parcs. On a aussi va faire un sentier vert qui est nommé pour Yuline Jumel, la fondatrice de CRAR et Maison Haïti. Et ça doit être livré aussi dans le même temps. C'était dans ce cas toujours pour le mois de novembre et ils sont à l'échéance. Sur l'autre question, j'ai fait suivre une requête semblable à la Ville-Sambre il y a quelques années. Ils sont revenus disant il va le considérer, mais seulement dans le cadre d'une réflexion pour Jean Talon qui est initialement planifiée pour 2022. Je ne suis pas certain que la Ville aurait l'argent dans le budget décennial des mobilisations qui va être proposé et qui existe toujours. La Ville Centre m'a fait un promis pour Queen Mary et un autre pour Jean Talon. Celle de Queen Mary a disparu et je ne sais pas si celle pour Jean Talon reste. Mais l'idée de faire une traverse entre Victoria et Mountain Sites était parmi les plans. Je vais revenir à la charge. Si Mme Montgomery veut m'aider, ça va être apprécié pour demander effectivement des investissements de la Ville-Centre dans notre district. Merci.
Merci. Et la dernière question vient de Thaïs Fairbet. Hello, I would like to follow up on a question I asked at a previous meeting. I started using the Montreal app to open requests for reparations of park furniture, garbage on sidewalks and potholes. I pointed out that my pothole requests were closed without being dealt with. One was even closed within 24 hours max. At the session, Mr. Plante said they'd follow up with me. Haven't heard anything yet and would really be interested in understanding why the requests were just closed. Seems like a waste of time and money. By when can I expect to be contacted? One of my requests, which were enumerated but not read in my question last time, is request 20-182819. So thank you for that question, and I'm sorry that this end wasn't very satisfactory for you, but I will follow up personally with Mr. Plante on the matter, and again, I apologize for the delay. So, avec ça, c'est terminé pour les questions. On passe maintenant à 10.05, période de questions des membres du conseil. Est-ce que quelqu'un a des questions?
Oui, Madame la mairesse, j'ai levé ma main.
Oh, OK. Allez-y.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. It has been, I think, 10 days since our back-to-back borough council meetings to adopt the budget and the regular session. And I believe it was in the budget session, if I remember correctly, that you committed to submitting emails demonstrating the representations that you've made to the mayor's and executive committee's offices regarding CDN-NDG's budget situation. As it's been 10 days and council still has not seen those emails, I just wanted to know if you will be committing to submit them before the next regular borough council meeting.
Yeah, sure. I've been very busy, so I will make sure that they are submitted.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? I don't see any hands raised. So on passe maintenant à 6501.
Oui,
Merci.
oui. Monsieur Pérez, vous vouliez intervenir?
Oui, comme vous voulez, Madame la mairesse, si vous voulez que Madame la greffière lise le point à l'ordre du jour pour qu'on puisse le proposer, comme vous voulez.
Soumettre au conseil d'arrondissement la résolution CA 20-17-02-148, adoptée le 5 octobre 2020, afin que celui-ci la considère d'urgence et en priorité, et ce, à la suite de l'exercice du pouvoir de reconsidération de la mairesse Mme Sue Montgomery, dans les 96 heures qui ont suivi l'adoption de cette résolution, conformément à l'article 53 de la loi sur les cités et villes.
Donc, je propose, Madame la mairesse.
Et j'appuie.
Merci. Si je peux prendre la parole, Madame la mairesse?
Oui, allez-y.
Je vais être assez bref dans un contexte où on a déjà débattu de cette motion, de cette résolution qui a été adopté à la majorité, évidemment, lors du dernier conseil d'arrondissement. Et aujourd'hui, on est là parce que vous avez exercé votre droit de reconsidération, donc de refuser de signer l'approbation sur cette même résolution. Et donc, ça nous force ici, en tant qu'élus, à faire un nouveau conseil d'arrondissement extraordinaire pour entériner la même résolution, donc quelque chose qui était assez prévisible, assez inévitable. Pour nous, ça démontre la nécessité justement d'avoir une telle motion. On a besoin comme élus de pouvoir justement travailler avec votre cabinet, mais également travailler avec le directeur d'arrondissement pour les raisons qui sont très bien soulignées dans la motion aujourd'hui et ainsi que celle de la semaine dernière. Ça a toujours été le cas à Côte-des-Neiges-Notre-Dame-de-Grâce. On n'a jamais eu de problématique. On a toujours travaillé en collégialité. On a toujours respecté les us et les coutumes ainsi que les pouvoirs, sachant qu'il y a des limites à ce qu'on peut demander et ce qu'on ne peut pas demander. Alors, pour moi, c'est une évidence, mais ça démontre la nécessité justement d'avoir une telle motion pour pouvoir continuer à faire notre travail, à représenter nos citoyens et nos citoyennes, défendre leurs intérêts et tout simplement continuer à faire administrer la ville pour le bien de notre arrondissement. So I think it's unfortunate that we needed to have a special meeting to basically re-adopt a motion that was previously adopted. Madam Mayor has the absolute right to refuse to sign the approval of the minutes and of the resolution in virtue of the law. And within that same article of the law, we have the ability to basically overturn that refusal and to make it a formality at this point. So I think it's important. We will continue to defend our citizens. We will continue to represent them, their needs. And to be able to continue to do that, we need to have access to the borough director, the same way we've been doing it, in my case, for the last 11 years, regardless of who was in power, regardless of whether there was a majority, regardless of the political affiliations, there was always an ability to speak and to conduct business limited for the purpose of representing our citizens. So I look forward to continuing to doing that. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un d'autre veut parler?
Oui, Madame la mairesse, j'ai levé ma main à nouveau.
Allez-y.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't rehash or repeat what Councillor Perez said, but as the seconder of the motion, I just wanted to bring us back and remind people of the context in which this is happening, where not only has there historically been a nonpartisan, collegial way of communicating between elected officials and senior managers, but I think it's important to keep in mind that this is also happening under a backdrop where our civil servants and our senior managers in particular are feeling like they're not working in a safe and healthy workplace. Councillors were shocked this past spring to receive a letter that was signed on behalf of our managerial team, stating that the atmosphere at the borough, and specifically the relations with the mayor's cabinet, had become untenable and could not continue that way. To the best of my knowledge, that letter has never been responded to. It was never even given the courtesy of a response by the mayor. I hope I'm wrong. She has an opportunity to correct me. But the fact of the matter is, our civil servants are operating in an environment and a context where if we ask legitimate questions and they put so much as one comma in the wrong place, they fear for their job security. It's what happened in the case of the fourth unjustified suspension of our borough director, and it is becoming a daily impediment to their work. So I think that by reestablishing basic common sense rules of good governance, we'll actually be in a position to get things done more effectively and not only work more collaboratively with our management team, but also reassure them that that it's certainly not all of council that's out for their heads. All we want to do is fill the potholes and trim the trees and get our jobs done on behalf of citizens. And so I thank councillors for considering this and for voting in favor of this motion for the second time in 10 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arsenault. I think it's rich that you're talking about a healthy workplace at the borough when a clear report was presented to you about harassment, intimidation, racism going on the part of our direction against blue-collar workers. And we have evidence of that. There is a clear report, and you've all washed your hands of it. So I find that really rich. So I would just like to remind all of you, le premier paragraphe de l'article 114.1 de la loi sur les cités et villes se lit comme suit. Dans l'application des articles 113 et 114, le directeur général ou le directeur d'arrondissement exerce notamment les fonctions suivantes. Il assure les communications entre le conseil, pas les conseillères, mais le conseil, le comité exécutif et les commissions d'une part, et les autres fonctionnaires, les employés de la municipale d'autre part. So he is not to share information with individual councillors. It is with the council. And the real danger of this motion is that our borough director will now feel entitled to share information with some councillors and not with others. And how is that in the interest of our borough or our citizens? This motion goes against this law, but also I'd like to read to you the training of the Controller General that all councillors had. And this is the role of an élu. Le conseiller ne dispose d'aucun pouvoir individuel. Il ne peut agir que collectivement avec les autres conseillers qui composent l'instance dont il fait partie. Il en va de même s'il préside une commission créée par l'instance. En dehors des séances, le conseiller n'a pas le pouvoir de prendre les décisions ou de représenter la ville ou l'arrondissement, à moins d'avoir été préalablement autorisé par le conseil. So, Stéphane Plante, I will remind all of you, is paid by the staff, by the taxpayers, by our residents of our borough. And as such, the information that he possesses belongs to everyone, all of us. He cannot go sharing information with Mr. Arsenault, with Mr. Perez, with Mr. Roton, with Madame Popian, with Mr. McQueen, without sharing it with all of us. To do so is going against the law. So now he's going to feel entitled, because of this motion that you have presented, to reveal information to some councillors and not to others. So I do not believe that this motion is in the best interest of our borough or the good functioning of this council or our residents. And I will remind you that we are here for the residents. So I am voting against it.
I'd like to say just a few words. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thanks. First of all, as I said, the last meeting 10 days ago, the mayor is not the superior of the councillors, she's not the employer of the councillors, and she can't prevent the councillors from doing their work and from accessing information from staff. Now, I half expected, foolishly obviously, that when I pointed out to Ms. Montgomery that she had one vote just like anybody else, and when she's consistently outvoted 5-1 in a council as heterogeneous as ours, where you have 3 councillors from the majority party at City Hall, the chef de l'opposition from the opposition party, and an independent, and all 5 don't see it the way the mayor does consistently, there's 2 possible narratives. One, everybody is constantly wrong, except the mayor, or perhaps the mayor is out of step with everybody else. And I was half expecting that the mayor would say there might be some wisdom in that observation, and we've got to find a way to work with the councillors and with the staff, because the way I see it, the mayor, who was kept in check by her former chef de cabinet for a couple of years, allowing the borough council to minimally function in a rational way, now finds herself at odds not only with all 5 councillors in our borough, but every single councillor at City Hall, who she accused a few weeks ago of having no integrity and had to be, via a question of privilege, brought back to earth by the leader of the majority, who has decided that none of our managers seem to know what they're doing, who 4 times has suspended our borough director and seems to have a poor working relationship with everyone. Note the letter that Mr. Arsenault referred to on that was sent May 20th, signed by every borough manager, saying not that the situation was untenable. Mr. Arsenault, I have to correct you there. They said it was toxic under Ms. Montgomery. That's what they used, the word toxic. So you're either going to believe that somehow Ms. Montgomery is the only one who is interested in the public interest, or maybe the other narratives is more appropriate, that Ms. Montgomery is out of step and incapable of working with anyone, particularly since she fired her last chef de cabinet. So having said that, let's examine this. Ms. Montgomery makes a spurious argument that only the council can receive any information from the borough director, and the councillors can't talk to them outside of the council meetings. Let me give you a couple of examples. I said earlier today, I want to use part of the surplus to fix the roads in our borough. They're atrocious. Our budget's too small. Ms. Montgomery was on both sides of the question 10 days ago, saying, well, I can see your point and the budget's inadequate, but she voted for the budget anyway, so I voted against. I want to use part of the surplus, but I can't do that by myself, and I can't order the borough director to do that. But I need a vote of the borough council. On the other hand, if I need information about the state of any particular road to make my intervention, I can get it from the borough director. And that's how it's always worked, not only in our borough, but to the best of my knowledge, in every other borough since the new city of Montreal was formed in November of 2001. And so Ms. Montgomery's argument seems to me to be rather spurious, and a way to prevent information from circulating, and a way to intimidate staff so that they won't talk to the councillors, preventing the councillors from doing their job and enhancing her powers in her office at the same time. Councillors, this motion is fairly clear. It only reassures our staff that they can continue to be professionals and do their job in the good manner that they've always done, without the jibes that come regularly from the mayor, who I think she's the union delegate for the blue-collar workers rather than the mayor of the borough. That they can continue to do their job and they can work with the councillors as they've always done. Our borough worked better before the firing of Daniel Sanger. At least we had civil relationship between all of us. That no longer exists under the current iteration. And we've got to get back to a situation where we can deliver the goods for our citizens. The thing is, for those watching us, Mr. Arsenault, Mr. McQueen, Ms. Popiano often don't agree with me. They often don't agree with Mr. Perez. I don't always agree with Mr. Perez. Sometimes I agree with Mr. Arsenault. Sometimes I agree with Mr. McQueen. But we find a collegial way to work together. Now, how is that possible? That 5 of us are so different, managed to find a professional way to work together. And on the other hand, there's Ms. Montgomery, who's been hauled up on charges at the Municipal Commission, 28, I believe. Is it more? I'm not sure. Who seems to not get along with anybody on the council or among the staff. So we've got to protect the citizens in this situation. I think the five of us have always been respectful of Ms. Montgomery's rights, and I've said often that she has a right to defend herself. I know she's in court. I know that she's accessing public money to defend herself. I know her court costs have been over $150,000 so far. But until such time as a judge rules otherwise, or such time that the city proves its case that it doesn't have to pay her fees, she has the right to defend herself. And I defend her right to defend herself. Having said that, she does not have the right to harass staff, to abuse her power. In my estimation, when you repeatedly fight with the borough director and suspend him on grounds that the rest of us think is not merited, that can be interpreted by many as abuse. So, Ms. Montgomery, this motion is not aimed at reducing your ability to work with me or any of the others. That's not the goal. It is simply to assure a better relationship between us, the borough director, and staff, so that we can do our jobs better in the way that it needs to be done for our citizens. And we offer you the olive branch, as usual, ready to work with you. All it takes is a phone call on your part to get started so that we can find the areas where we might actually have common interests. I started this meeting talking about Police Station 11. You're on board with me on the same position. I thank you for adding your name as a seconder to my motion last month in council about the mini post proposal, which is the least of the, at least an improvement over the current situation. And obviously, I don't agree with Mr. McQueen, Mr. Arsenault, Ms. Popiano on that, and I'm willing to work with you on that. But it takes two to tango. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd just like to add a quick point before Councillor Perez gets his droit de réplique. Just to add a quick point to what Councillor Rotron was saying. I think we need to keep in mind what kind of communication we're talking about. The mayor earlier is that all councillors need to have all same access to all the same information. The fact of the matter is, as far as the data functioning of this borough is concerned, that is...
The sound is really bad. Is it bad for everyone? You're cutting out for me.
Pardon me.
I
Can you hear me now? Is this okay?
Yeah, that's better. If you start from the top, I think that's better.
Okay, sure. Thank you. So just to be clear, what the mayor is saying right here is that all of the councillors always need access to all the same information. And as far as the day-to-day operating of the borough is concerned, as far as the what this motion covers is concerned, that is not at all the case. I'm the councillor for Loyola, and on a day-to-day basis, I don't need to know about Councillor Perez's request to have a pothole filled in Darlington District. I don't need to know about whether Councillor Popianu is having residents approach her about trimming their trees. I don't need that information, and the same holds true for them. We're not asking to all have access to the same information, nor are we asking for access to substantive policy development documents that will eventually be discussed at and presented to and voted on in council. We're really just saying all we want to do is help our residents get stuff fixed. That's all. I don't need to know how many emails or what follow-ups are being done in other districts. I just need a clear line of communication and clear follow-ups with the people who get the job done in Loyola, and those are our civil servants. And when I do have that clear line of communication, things get done. It works, it helps. So this nonsense about we absolutely must all have access to the same information, for some things it's true. For some things it's true, absolutely. But for the day-to-day, it's not. We really just want to fix things and be able to respond to our residents. And that's what this motion is seeking to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Perez, did you want to talk about réplique?
Yes, oui, Madame la mairesse, merci. Donc, ça va être mon droit de réplique s'il n'y a personne d'autre qui aimerait prendre la parole. J'ai entendu les arguments de Madame la mairesse il y a principalement deux arguments. Le premier argument, c'est que à l'extérieur, en dehors des conseils d'arrondissement ou conseils de ville, un élu, autre que le maire ou la mairesse, n'a aucun pouvoir, n'a aucun rôle à jouer. Je suis en désaccord avec ce narratif et cette façon de voir les choses. Certes, la loi ICT-Ville est très claire. Un des rôles et une des fonctions d'un élu, d'un conseil municipal, c'est de voter lors des conseils d'arrondissement ou des conseils de ville. C'est clair. C'est à cette opportunité-là qu'on vient exercer un de nos rôles, qui est un des principaux rôles pour justement donner effet à la volonté des citoyens de pouvoir débattre de différents enjeux et approuver des contrats ou d'autres règlements. Mais ce n'est pas le seul rôle que nous avons. Sinon, ça aboutirait à ce qu'a mentionné M. Rotran, que entre conseils, un élu, il ferait presque rien. So I totally disagree with that characterization of the role of an elected official. We are not simply ones who are going to vote in between borough councils. That is not my vision of the things, and I do not believe that that is the vision of the legislator. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs issues every couple of years a guide to elected officials on how they're supposed to do, what is their role. And the most recent one was one that was published July of 2020. And, in that document, it's very clear what a role of the elected official is. It is to, and I'll cite it, it's on page 5, représenter les citoyennes et les citoyens, décider les décisions et administrer la ville ou l'administration. Alors, évidemment, il y a plus de détails, mais ça démontre, it demonstrates that our role is not simply to vote. There are different ways of representing and fulfilling our roles. And that's, I think, one of the core points of our democracy. We are there to be able to defend the interest. And to defend interest is not simply to come once a month and to vote. It is to deal with citizen requests. It is to sometimes direct them to appropriate municipal services. Sometimes it's to guide them along with different information. Sometimes it's to push the city to do what's right. And that's what we've been doing, many of us, for many years, some for decades. And that's all we want to do. And that's all we've been doing. Madam Mayor points out to some documents how, even the Comptroller General says, well, he's reiterating what the letter of the law is. And what we're saying is the spirit of the law, the common sense approach, the informal way and collegial way of governing is what has been transpiring in CDN-NDG for years, if not decades, is what we're asking for. Now, Madam Mayor has decided to change that way of doing things. And this is true even before this whole episode, since she was expelled from Projet Montréal. I will recall, and I will remind everyone that last year, before any of this started, I was informed by the borough director. Actually, I was informed by her chief of staff, Mrs. Montgomery's chief of staff, that I will no longer be able to speak to the borough director as I had done for the previous decade. And the reason that was given was that everything has to go through the mayor's office. I rejected it at the time. I reject it now. I don't think that I have to send every single email whether I'm asking for information, following up on files, or whatnot. We don't want a politicalization of the role of an elected officials. We'll leave that during election campaigns. But we have a pretty good track record that in between campaigns, we're able to do our job. Now, let's say, for the sake of argument, that Mrs. Montgomery is right on a certain level. Even if that's true, and as she pointed out to the Cities and Towns Act, I'll do so as well. Article 114, the first sentence, says clearly, under the authority of council. The Director General is responsible for the administration of this pilot. Under the authority of council, which means that is his power, its source, its genesis also comes from what we attribute as a council. The council is sovereign. Obviously, we can't go do anything that is against the law, but to be able to enable common sense practices, to be able to have proper communications for the exclusive role of fulfilling our role as elected official, I would say that that is specifically what is provided for. And that's what we did last Monday, and that's what we're doing today. Under the authority of this council, we are giving the power of the borough director to communicate with us when it's not exactly in between councils, but only for the sole purpose of enabling you to do our job as elected officials, nothing more. And to be transparent and to have proper governance and proper structure, we're asking him to establish those best practices. And they're going to be transparent and they're going to be known by all. Now, so I think that, you know, there's no reason to believe that we're going to be outside the law. I will ask Madame the Mayor, and I had asked her this last year and I never got an answer, was can she point out to an example in the first 2 years of this mandate where I did have direct access to Mr. Plante and our borough director, can she point out to any example where I either asked improper information or he divulged any kind of confidential information that I wasn't entitled to? Had there been any inappropriate action on my behalf or on his behalf?
How would I know that?
A year later, I'm still waiting for that answer. So I don't think it's a concern, and I think that the law does allow us to properly establish those kind of rules. The second argument that she put forward is that it will now allow the borough director to unilaterally decide what information goes to which elected official. I really don't see the relevance of this argument. I really don't see how this is all of a sudden a concern. We will still have our borough councils. We will still have our caucuses, I would presume, our preparatory meetings before, where we will be able to discuss when there are issues concerning the borough, whether it's an orientation on urbanism or economic development or some kind of fines or COVID-related thing. And I think that the borough director, you know, he's not acting in a vacuum. This is not an arbitrariness or absolute discretion that he's going to apply. It's got to be within his obligations of loyalty to the borough and to the city, his obligation of the code of ethics, and obviously under the right of surveillance of Madame the Mayor. We have the opportunity to make sure that what's supposed to be happening is going to be happening. So I think that we have an obligation to do this, to allay the concerns of our senior management of the borough director. And this is the best way to go about it. We're not all of a sudden, you know, the borough director is not going to all of a sudden be able to, you know, approve amounts for us. He's not going to be able to do anything of that. And if he were to do that, guess what? There are ways to be able to govern it because every single month we get to review every single expenses. So I reject both arguments that Madame Mayor has put forward. I invite all our colleagues to vote in favor. J'invite tous mes collègues à voter en faveur de cette motion afin de donner, de confirmer la bonne pratique qu'on a pu avoir au cours des au moins 11 dernières années dans notre arrondissement, si ce n'est pas depuis le début de la création de l'arrondissement de Côte-des-Neiges Notre-Dame-de-Grâce. Hormis les règles techniques, il y a le gros bon sens et il y a une volonté. S'il y a une réelle volonté de la part de tous les élus et de l'administration de travailler dans le bien commun, ben, on n'aura pas des disputes. Oui, on peut avoir des désaccords sur des enjeux de fond, sur les façons, et pour autant que l'information est est transmise, pour la façon qu'on n'a pas des menaces, on n'a pas une façon d'avoir une trop grande hostilité, on va pouvoir faire avancer les choses. Et malheureusement, la preuve, c'est que ce conseil, bien que c'était le droit absolu de Mme la mairesse de refuser, démontre dans quel climat nous travaillons tous, ainsi que les directeurs, pour pouvoir justement faire avancer. On aurait pu éviter ce conseil d'arrondissement et tout simplement continuer à faire notre boulot, qui est de représenter les citoyens et de ne pas se perdre dans des chicanes dans ce genre, parce que il y a certaines personnes qui aimeraient faire d'eux-mêmes ou bien un ou une martyr, ou bien de dire qu'ils sont là, indispensables et les seuls à pouvoir tout faire pour les citoyens. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Donc, j'appelle au vote Madame la mairesse, appuyée de mon collègue M. Arsenault.
OK. Alors, qui est pour?
Oui.
Oui.
Je suis pour. Merci.
En faveur.
Moi aussi.
En faveur.
Madame Popiano, en faveur?
En
OK.
faveur.
OK. Je pense que tout le monde sont en faveur et moi, je suis contre. Alors, la motion est adoptée. Et avec ça, je lève la séance. Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Bonne journée à tout le monde.
Bon après-midi.